Hi, I'm Marshall. I'm the owner of Going Gear, and I'm here in our store in Smyrna, Georgia. This is the extended review of the Mecarmy PT60 and PT80. Alright, here we are with the Mecarmy PT60 and PT80. These two really quickly became two of my all-time favorite lights. The PT60 pretty much immediately became one of my personal lights. A lot of really cool stuff going on with them. The biggest thing that a lot of people are probably watching this video for is the output. 9,600 lumens on max output. And as you can see, when we go outside, they really do that. Crazy amount of lumens coming out of these. Let's set the PT60 to the side for just a second. I'm going to open this up and show you what you have on the inside. You have the same stuff with both lights. Alright, here is the PT80. Slide that sleeve off. Here is the light in the holster. You have some other stuff that comes with it. So you have a micro USB cable because these do have built-in charging. You have a user manual, definitely worth a read. You've got a lot going on with these lights, a lot of features and everything. And then you have a lanyard, pretty nice lanyard. Mecarmy makes some nice lanyards. You've got the adjustable thing on there so you can adjust the length. You've got a couple spare O-rings if you happen to need those. I personally have never replaced an O-ring in my life, except for you guys. I've replaced customer O-rings when you guys have sent stuff back, but on my personal lights, I've never replaced one. I don't know if that's good or bad. And here is the light. You can see they come with some pretty nice holsters. You got a nice, thick, substantial material. Got some decent padding on it. Almost feels like some neoprene or padded nylon or something in there. But you've got the attachment on the back. You've got that metal D-ring, hook and loop on the front. Got that pull thing to make it easy to come off. And you can see it offers a lot of protection. These are decent sized lights, so I like having holsters like these. When I'm not using it, I tend to keep it in the holster just to protect the light. Not that it can't handle a decent amount of use and abuse, but I like to keep them looking nice, you know, keep them from getting all scuffed up and dirty. Why not if you have it? So let's set that to the side. All right, here is the PT80. I'm going to pull over the PT60 as well. You have pretty much exactly the same features on both of these. You have the same output, you have the same functions, you have the same built-in charging, and both of these can be used as a battery bank, which is super, super cool. We've actually only got one other flashlight that I can think of that has that feature, and these do it really, really well. And the only difference you're going to see between the two is basically the size of the battery pack. So same output and everything, but you get pretty much double the runtime with the PT80. So you have 8 18650s in there versus 4 18650s. So these both come with the battery packs. You already have the battery packs included. But other than that, same feature, same output. They both have 16 CREE XP-G2 LEDs down in there. Pretty crazy. 16 LEDs. They each have their own separate little optic, which you'll see when we go outside, gives it some awesome beam distance. So these have about 415 meters of beam distance. So you have this super floody beam, ton of lumens coming out of it, and just because of the sheer amount of lumens combined with those nice little optics for each LED, you get surprising beam distance out of this. So a great combination of flood and beam distance, which a lot of people ask for in their lights. And you can see same thing on the PT80. Switch on the side controls everything. You've got this nice heat sinking all the way around to help dissipate heat because 9,600 lumens, they're going to put out a decent amount of heat. Let's take a look at some of the specs. So I've got the user manual right here. So PT80 specifications, PT60 specifications, 9,600 lumens on max output on both. You've got 2.28 hours of runtime on high on the 60 and then 4.47 on the 80. And they go all the way down to 21 lumens on both, where you've got 331 hours and 622 hours. So crazy run times on the lows on those. Mecarmy doesn't put an ANSI table on their site like a lot of manufacturers. So let's take a look at the user manual. You can get a little bit more up close look. 9600, 21, 500, 2120 are the 4 different outputs. Same thing for the PT80. There you can see all the specs. Go back and pause if you want to see them in depth. So while I have the user manual out, I'm going to talk about some things that I neglected for years, honestly, in videos. I kind of got away from it because I took it for granted that you guys knew what I was talking about. But if you're new to lights, a lot of these things you're not familiar with. So some of this stuff is unique to these two particular flashlights, but some of these are common across the higher end flashlights. So like I said, these have 16 CREE XP-G2 LEDs. That's a whole lot of LEDs in one flashlight. Max output 9,600 lumens. They have built-in charging. I'm going to talk about all this stuff a little bit more in depth later, so we're going to skip over that. Max beam distance 415 meters. Portable handle available as accessory. That's not currently available. So if you see that in your manual, hopefully that's something that's coming, but that's not something that comes with it by default. Maybe we'll see that in the future. Pure copper and gold plating circuit board. So that's pretty cool. High efficiency optical lens. You got 4 independent constant current drivers. A lot of lights are lucky to get one. These things have 4, I guess, to power those 16 LEDs properly. Built-in temperature testing system, so it keeps the temperature at or below 45 degrees Celsius. So if it starts to get too hot, it's going to automatically drop the output just to keep it from overheating. Stainless steel bezel with a little bit of crenulation on there. You can see, got a little bit of scalloping on there. You've got a whole bunch of heat sinking on there, so it's really good for heat dissipation. Rugged pineapple texture for better grip. And it does have anti-roll, so it talks about the anti-roll. You can tail stand it. People always ask us about it, especially in a light like this that is very floody. You got a whole lot of lumens. It's really nice to be able to set it on the table in the middle of a room or in your tent or wherever and just light up everything in the room. It'll bounce off the ceiling and provide a really nice lantern effect. So these obviously do that really well thanks to that really wide base that they have on there. Gun mount available as an accessory. I also haven't seen that yet. This would be a heck of a light to put on a gun. This would definitely be one of the larger ones that we've ever sold that they're saying can weapon mount, but it looks like that might be coming in the future. And then you also have a tripod mount, which I think is super useful. We have a lot of photographers that'll buy lights like this for light painting or just lighting up wide areas, or we've even have the movie industry is getting pretty big in Atlanta. So we've had a lot of movie guys come in and buy lights like this just to be able to light up scenes. And so you got aero-grade aluminum alloy and Type 3 hard anodizing. I've shown this in several other videos, but Type 3 hard anodizing means that it's really scratch resistant. So with some of the lower forms of anodizing, if I did this with a hardened steel knife across the anodizing, I would just be scraping it right off. But you can see nothing happens to that. It's really durable. If you gouge down on it, yeah, you can damage it if you really want to, but it's going to handle normal wear and tear really easily. It was really hard for me to say for some reason. And then IPX8 water resistance. And what that means is that you can dunk it, you can use it in the rain, you can use it in wet environments. Just don't go diving with it. Anything short of diving, and you're good to go. Also on the inside, you know, I talked about a lot of the stuff that they list. Some of the stuff that they don't list is just how well these things are made. They're really well put together. You can see on the inside, there's no blobs of solder. There's no loose wires. You can look inside the head and see everything's very clean. Everything's well put together. Clean contact points. Just quality throughout. So the stuff that you see on the inside that doesn't necessarily add anything to the presentation says a lot about the quality of the light and what the manufacturer thinks of their products and of you, honestly, and of me. You know, they obviously put a lot of care and detail into these lights, and you can tell when you look at them and you kind of take a close look at how they're put together. Here's a size difference between the two. You can see same head on them, you just got the different battery packs. So you have 4 18650s in this one versus 8 18650s. And these do have battery packs. These are not, you can't put 4 18650s in here and 8 18650s in here. These do come with battery packs, and we will have them available separately, but they are pre-made battery packs. So you've got this big old battery pack, and it's really nice. They're using high quality batteries, and you've got a whole lot of capacity in there. So you've got 8 18650s, looks like 8 3400 milliamp hour 18650s. You got a nice big old heavy duty connection in there that could handle the power coming out of this thing no problem. And the reason that they do this instead of the 8 separate 18650s is, you know, a lot of people have asked on recent lights where we've had these big and bright lights why they don't have built-in charging. And load balancing is a real big issue when you have 18650s in there. So you've got one that's completely drained, and you've got 3 that have some capacity in there. You know, how do you properly handle all that? So manufacturers would either put these high quality battery packs in there where they know the quality of the cells, they know there's good stuff in there, they don't have to worry about people putting in generic crap batteries that maybe it doesn't charge correctly, or maybe there's issues with the batteries. They have that taken care of, or they can just not do the built-in charging when you have all those cells in there. So there's a trade-off. You can decide whether you want the built-in charging, whether you want the battery bank feature, and you want the included battery pack, or you want no charging. There's both options on the market. I personally really like it this way. They're lithium-ion batteries, so they're going to be rated for hundreds of charges. So you're going to be able to charge both of these lights a whole lot of times before the battery goes dead. And the battery packs, the price on them is pretty reasonable. So if you want to spare, you can get that as well. But the runtime on especially the 80 is pretty crazy with the included battery pack. So honestly, I personally would just, use the included one and never worry about it from there. To show you the back of it, I kind of showed you the tail standing area. We'll turn them around a little bit. There's that tripod mounting port. And let me talk about the interface. It's a really cool interface. They've been refining it since they first introduced the PT series not too long ago, honestly. Mecarmy is a relatively new company. We were one of their first dealers, and we picked them up, I think, in October or November of 2015. So we've had them for roughly a year, and they're already at the point of creating things like this. And they've refined their interface several times, and the latest iteration is really, really good. So the interface is press that switch and it'll turn the light on, and it'll always default to low if you just press that switch a single time. Press and hold while it's on. It'll cycle through your different outputs. You can feel the heat coming off of this thing. Not quite enough to burn my hand, but I'm sure if I left it there, yep, that's getting pretty hot. All right, so that is the regular operation of it. So tap it to turn the light on, and then press and hold to cycle through the modes. You can also get directly to the max output from off. Double click and it goes straight into the 9,600 lumens. You can also get straight into strobe. So 1, 2, 3, triple click and it'll go into strobe, and then you have SOS as well. So press and hold and it'll go into SOS. Both the strobe and the SOS are at the full 9,600 lumens. Feel the, man, I can get my hand out of the way. There's some pretty serious heat coming off of these things. So that is the basic interface. If you want to lock it out, all you have to do is just slightly loosen the head, and you can see that breaks the connection. I personally like mechanical lockouts way better than any messing with switches or anything like that, because whatever you do to lock it out can also happen in your pack or wherever you have this thing stored if it's getting jostled around. So I like mechanical lockouts where you just loosen it a little bit. The chances of this getting tightened back and the button getting activated when it's in storage or when you're have it in your pack or anything like that are super, super low, way lower than having that button accidentally pressed. So just loosen that a little bit. And then for long-term storage, you can of course take the battery pack out and disconnect it from that connection. Let me show you the battery pack that comes in the 60, a little bit smaller one, so basically half the size, half the cells, but still that big sturdy connection. Look at that connection in there. That's some serious wiring. They're not using some cheap little flimsy wiring. They got some serious wiring that can handle the current that these things are putting out appropriately. So it's nice to see that they're using high quality, appropriate materials. Okay, let me show you the interface again real quick. So tap that side switch to turn it on, press and hold to cycle through your different outputs. Tap to go straight into low from off, double click for max, triple click for strobe, press and hold while it's in strobe, and it'll go into SOS, and then mechanical lockout, just loosen that head, and you will be locked out. Exact same interface on the PT80, just all the run times are doubled, which is really nice. I like the 60 just because of the size. This is definitely the one that I go for, but I know a lot of customers like that larger size, and they want that extended runtime. Definitely a good option. Basically take all those run times and double them as you saw in the specs. Definitely still a good option, and really high quality battery packs in both. So that's a nice feature that they have in there. Okay, let me show you the charging functions of this real quick. So here's the battery pack from the PT60. You've got an indicator, so you press that button and it shows you the current battery life. And then you have 3 micro USB ports. You can actually plug in 1, 2, or 3 cables and charge it faster. That's pretty freaking cool. It's a really interesting solution to having common cables. So people either do common cables like micro USB or mini USB or Type C or something like that, or they do a proprietary cable that can charge more quickly. They decided to use common cables, and you can use more of them at once. So it's a really interesting solution to being able to charge a light quickly. And they say, let's see if we can get it on here. So the charging time, 8 hours with one cable, 4 hours with two cables, 3 hours with three cables. So pretty reasonable. And that is at 1 amp. And then if you have a 2 amp power source, you can do 6 hours with one cable or 3 hours with two cables. So have a nice USB powered hub, and you can charge these things pretty quickly. And I believe that is for the, that is for the 60. So basically double that for the 80. Okay, let me show you the actual charging features in action. All right, so let's check out the charging features of the battery pack. So we're going to go ahead and push that button, and it's going to show you the current status of the battery pack. So we're about 3/4 full. We're going to go ahead and plug in a micro USB cable into the side. It doesn't matter which port you put it into. You can put it into any of the three, and if you want to charge it faster, plug in more cables. So you can put in up to 3 cables, and it'll charge at up to 3 amps, which is pretty darn fast. Of course, you need it coming from a power source that will actually give you more power if you use more than one cable. For instance, I know some battery banks out there and some other charging devices will split the current if you plug in more than one cable. But I've got a powered USB hub over there that puts out something like 2 amps on every cable. So when you plug them in, the circuitry on the inside is automatically going to optimize everything and determine how much power it needs. So you can't mess anything up by using more cables, but you can make it go faster if you have the appropriate power. So pretty neat feature that they've got on there. You know, normally a lot of times you get a compromise. So you either get micro USB and it doesn't do it very quickly, or you get a proprietary cable that can do it more quickly, but then you have a proprietary cable. So this is a really interesting and pretty ingenious solution. Just add in more micro USB ports, because we all have a ton of cables lying around. And if you're like me, you've got a USB hub sitting on your desk, so you can charge things like this really, really quickly. And still, it charges relatively quickly without having 3 plugged in. It's still a reasonable amount of time. One of those things where if you plug it in, leave it overnight, and you'll be good to go. Let's check out the battery bank feature. So on the other side here, we've got that USB out port. So we're going to plug in another micro USB cable, if I can get it oriented the right way. It takes 3 tries, right? I did it in 2 tries that time. Pretty magical. And I've got a Mecarmy Lumen, just lost the head on the ground. We'll get that later. So this is micro USB rechargeable. Pretty cool little keychain light. I've got a review on it if you want to check it out. But we're going to plug it in, and you can see that it is not charging. And the reason is you actually have to push the button to get it to start charging, and then you can see that red indicator down in there that it is actually charging. So it's going to charge, or it's going to put out a current for up to 10 seconds until it senses a load. So if you don't have anything plugged in after 10 seconds, the USB out will be disabled. But if you have something plugged in and it senses a load, then it will actually charge your device. It's a pretty neat feature, and you have a massive capacity on that battery. So you can charge quite a few different things. I could charge this thing a lot of times. You could charge your cell phone several times, tablets. It's not going to charge a laptop or anything like that, because I know my laptop has about 9 of the batteries that are in here when this thing has 4. So you're not going to be able to charge any big devices, but any compact, portable power kind of stuff, it'll be able to charge no problem at all. Okay, so that's the features and interface and everything of the Mecarmy PT60 and PT80. If it's not super obvious at this point, I absolutely love these lights. I fell in love with them as soon as they came in. Honestly, as soon as I saw the pictures and specs, I was like, those are going to be some freaking cool lights. A lot of times I'll see the initial release and I'll be like, okay, yeah, whatever. And then it comes in and, you know, I warm up on it. And I'm like, oh, that actually is pretty cool. But as soon as I saw these, I was like, man, those things are going to be amazing. You got the crazy high output. You got the great materials and fit and finish, built-in charging. You got the battery bank. Just a lot of really nice, neat stuff going on in these two lights. All right, let's go ahead and take the PT60 outside, since they both have the same performance, and we're going to show you how these lights can do outside. All right, we got that compact little monster outside. Got the big 40 mag light that I always use as a control. Let's go ahead and try out the mag light first. Tree right there is about 30 feet away. Dock house down there on the lake is 100 feet away. There's your mag light. Let's go ahead and try out the PT60. Let's do the full blast first. That's what you all want to see. So there's your full 9,600 lumens. Crazy, crazy amount of light coming out of this compact flashlight. Just so you can see that I didn't pull my truck up on my deck or anything like that. Just a crazy amount of lumens coming out of this thing. The first time I turned it on, I honestly giggled just because it's just this huge wall of light. Really, really impressive. Let me show you the lower outputs. We'll go ahead and do the single click and turn it on. You can see that actually lights up that tree about 30 feet away really well. And then we'll cycle through the other ones just so you can see what those look like. All right, let's zoom in down there just so you can see better up close how well it's lit up down there. Everything's honestly kind of blown out on my camera screen just because of the sheer amount of light. But as you can see, it lights up pretty much everything in front of me. You got that really, really large hotspot, really, really wide spill. I'm going to shine it off to the side just so you can see how far out the spill goes. And still a nice wide bright spill. So you got this just wall of light that lights up everything. And because of those optics and all the LEDs, you get solid distance out of this thing. So 400 meters of beam distance, pretty impressive, especially considering how floody the light is. Just because of the sheer amount of lumens and those optics, you get not too bad of a beam distance. All right, let's go ahead and cycle through those other outputs. When it's zoomed in a little bit, just so you can see what those look like. Really impressive amount of light, and again, you're going to get the same performance out of the PT80, but you're going to get the longer runtime. So if you want the larger size, you want the better battery life, PT80 is definitely the way to go. Let's go ahead and take this out to some more distance just so you can see what it can do with some more space. All right, got some more space so I can show you what the PT60 can do with the longer distance. Go ahead and crank it all the way to max. Boat right there, 20 feet away. Let me show you those targets out there. First one is 50 yards, second one is 100 yards. Tree line is 130 yards, two white signs are about 65 yards. Everything lit up just extremely well. Ton of light coming out of this thing. It's really, really impressive. Again, you can get an idea with this longer distance of what you get with the really bright hotspot, the really bright spill. Let me kind of shine it off to the side. You can see how wide that spill is. Even just the light bouncing off of the hotspot just to the areas around it creates even more spill. So you get spill and then some more just because of how bright the hotspot is. Let me cycle through the other outputs just to see what those look like. There's your low, good for up close kind of stuff. Cycle through those kind of slowly. Keep on getting told that I do it too quickly, so I'm gonna do it a little bit slower. Let's do that zoomed in just so you can see what that looks like zoomed in. There's your low. You can see even the lower outputs make it out there really well. And obviously, as well as everything is lit up out there, this thing can do even longer distances if you need it to. So it's rated for 400 meters, and you can see how well it is doing with about 130 yards. So I walked around a little bit in a recent video and talked about why I like high lumen lights and why I think they're so useful for so many different people. And I had a lot of questions, a lot of people made comments on that, so I wanted to expand on the topic a little bit more. So we're going to walk around with the PT60 and we're going to talk about why I find lights like this so useful. And since I know a lot of people are going to ask, that's from the headband, from the headlamp that is currently shining in my face, so you guys are not staring at a black screen during this part. So let's go walk around a little bit. So there's the PT60 on low, and honestly that's where I use it most of the time because I'm shining on the ground right in front of me and I want to see where the path is lit up, and you get that crazy battery life so you don't have to worry about recharging it all the time. I go on walks a lot with my kids. This is a pretty steep hill, so hopefully I'm not going to have a blooper of me busting my butt. Yay, I made it down the hill. All right. So anyway, I go on walks a lot with my kids, and you know, most of the time this is the kind of stuff I need to light up. But every now and then you need the more lumens. You want to light up something a little bit further away, and with a low lumen light you just can't do that. So you've got the higher outputs when you need them, and you can see even that second output is lighting up things really, really well for medium kind of distances, and you're just lighting up everything in front of you. And then when you need them, you can crank it up even further. You hear something rustling out in the woods and you want to see what's going on really, really well, you can see you don't have to have a crazy amount of land. I mean, I'm looking, you know, probably 60, 70 feet in front of me, and it's not blowing out the image or anything like that. It's just lighting up everything really, really well. This is why I like floody lights, especially in the high lumen lights, so much, just because of it just lights up everything in front of you without blowing stuff out. Obviously, if I shine it at the ground, that's going to be a little too much light, but honestly, to my eyes, it's really not. It's really not that bad. So I managed to accidentally turn the camera off, so we're going to start back up, and I'm going to talk about some things that people have brought up over the years and just touch on some other points. So one of the biggest things that a lot of people talk about on lights like this, and honestly a lot smaller lights, a lot lower output lights, is that they drop in output. And manufacturers tell you this, you know, they're not dishonest about it. They'll tell you that it's going to drop in output after a certain amount of time, and it's going to do that because of heat. And most of these lights are only going to do it on your max output or your top two outputs, and it's just because you don't want it damaging you, you don't want it damaging the light itself. These lights can put out a tremendous amount of power, and a lot of that power comes in the form of heat. You don't want that heat building up to the point where it damages the light. You don't want it building up to the point where it burns you. I'm sure everybody's heard about laptops catching on fire and cell phones catching on fire, and you've got lithium batteries in these things. So the automatic protection that's built in is great. And in most cases, you're not going to be using that max output for an extended period of time anyway. And when you want it, you have it available as a burst. And then when you're done looking around, you figure out what's going on, then you can drop it down. And still, on the lower outputs, you can see how well it's lighting things up. Maybe you need to light up a little bit further, maybe you need that higher output, you have it available to you. And honestly, if you want 10,000 lumens for an extended period, you're not going to get it in a handheld flashlight. You're going to need something that is much, much larger, probably has active cooling in it, probably is wired to a wall or to a vehicle or to a generator or something like that. You're just not going to get it in a handheld form factor. But you've got a nice compromise in this kind of flashlight where you have a compact size, you have something that's reasonable to carry around, and then when you need the burst, you have that burst available to you versus having to, you know, carry around something that probably weighs hundreds of pounds, which is what the other solutions I can think of on the market. You know, they're vehicle mounted kind of things, or they're things that are have wheels attached to them because they have so much weight to them. This is something that is much more reasonable for most people, and honestly way less expensive. You talk about the cost on this thing versus any kind of solution that's going to get you this kind of lumens. Those are crazy, crazy expensive. I've looked at them personally before. Another question we get pretty often is, why on earth would I ever need this amount of lumens? And it's kind of like carrying a knife or a flashlight in your pocket every day. You don't really realize how useful it is until you have it. You're like, man, that was an extremely useful thing to have. Not to mention the battery bank feature. You know, just having this amount of light can be useful in a lot of different situations. I mean, I went to Georgia Tech and I lived in downtown Atlanta. We rode our bikes around the city a lot, and I would have loved to have a light like this. You know, we had crappy little lights that maybe put out 20 or 30 lumens, didn't really light up anything, and when we were in parks or areas with not great lighting, it would have been amazing to have something like this. You know, imagine you're on the side of the road, your vehicle's not working. You can light up your entire vehicle, make sure everybody can see you, can see your vehicle. You know, they're not going to hit you, hopefully. Make yourself a lot more visible and make it easier for you to work on your vehicle to figure out what's going on. I think there's a ton of situations where having a light that just puts out just this wall of lumens is super useful. Another thing a lot of people talk about, kind of related to what I was talking about a minute ago, is people say, hey, it only does this amount of lumens for a few minutes. And I know I've touched on this several times, but again, how often do you need 9,600 lumens? Wouldn't you like a light that can do all those other outputs and can do them well and can do them for a really long time? And then when you need it, you can have that 9,600 lumen burst. You can have that burst to just give you that whole huge amount of lumens coming out of this thing and light up everything in front of you. I mean, I don't need it very often. It's kind of like, hey, I hear something out across the lake. I wonder what's going on out there. Hey, I hear something rustling in the woods. I wonder what it is out there. And then I look and then I'm done. So yeah, I'm obviously a little bit biased, I'm the one selling the light, and I have a little bit of an obsession with flashlights, and I have pretty much my entire life. But I really do think that lights like this can be useful for a lot of different people. And I hear from a lot of different people that talk about how useful lights like these are. And I'd love to hear from you guys if you have any specific cases where you've used a light like this, or if you use it on the job, or use it in your day-to-day life. Let me know in the comments. I'm always really interested to hear stuff like that, and I'll mention it in future videos. Another really common question that we get on pretty much everything that we sell is this worth buying, especially on flashlights? Is this worth buying versus something else? And yeah, if you like the features, honestly, this is the only thing going with features like this. I've never seen a light like this, with this high of an output, with the built-in charging, with the battery bank feature. All that stuff combined make it a really, really cool light. And yeah, I am the one selling it, like I said, so definitely take this with a grain of salt. But we sell things because we recommend them. We don't recommend them because we sell them. I wouldn't carry a brand that I didn't think was worthwhile and that I didn't think was a good product. So yeah, I definitely think this is an awesome light. It's definitely one of my favorites of all time, and I definitely do recommend it. Impressive output. Bunch of really cool features in here. I think they did a great job on these lights. Definitely some of my favorites of all time. You got the built-in charging. You got the battery pack that it comes with. Obviously, the insane amount of lumens coming out of this thing. The great beam on it. I love the beam, just light up everything in front of you kind of beam. My kids have fallen in love with it, as you'll see here in just a little bit. You've got the battery pack where you can charge other devices, so you can charge your phone with this thing. Great emergency kind of light in your vehicle or around the house kind of thing for power outages. A lot of really cool features on it. Anyway, that is the Mecarmy PT60 and PT80. If you like it, you can buy it from me at goinggear.com. If you have any questions or comments, you can reach me in the comments or any of my guys at goinggear.com. As always, get going and start something. Thanks for watching.
Bend down.
Hey, you want to try out the big light?
Yep. Oh, this one. Oh, here. Here go.
Okay, you're pointing it directly at me. This is going to be bad. Can you find the switch? There you go. Whoa. Why don't you shine it out at the lake?
Good lake.
What do you think, Lady Thor?
Good laser. Good laser.
Wow.
Good laser.
Do you like it?
Yeah. Here we go.
What's your favorite part?
That turns bright.
That it turns bright? You want to try it out, Cully?
Yep, here.
Okay, your turn.
Here.
Don't put it in this, don't,
Yeah. Yeah, make it more lighter.
I don't want to blind you guys. Too many lumens. You want it more brighter?
Yeah. See?
Maximum power?
Stop here.
Look how big your shadows are.
I can't come. Look. Wendy. Oh. Oh. Stop. Oh. Come on. Come on. That's your leg on.
No, I'm going to turn it down a little bit. I don't want to blind you guys. Saying goodnight to the stars.